Hey guys, it's your tired teacher again, and I'm coming at you with our second lecture on World War II. So today we're going to concentrate a lot on the home front and pretty much like how we mobilize for the war, the contributions of women and minorities like African Americans, Asian Americans, and what they go through during the war. And believe towards the end we'll probably end up with the Holocaust. So today's stuff is really impactful on both ends of the spectrum. I mean, we do like some great things, and then we do some pretty awful things. So let's go ahead and dive into this. Now, where we left off last time, the United States has just entered the war because of the bombing at Pearl Harbor. So on December 7th, 1941, the Japanese made a surprise attack on the naval fleet in Pearl Harbor. They bombed like battleships like the Battleship Arizona and Battleship Oklahoma and various other battleships, as well as bombing like airplane hangars and whatnot. So, I mean, there was a lot of death and destruction on this day, and this was the attack that finally got the United States to be like, hey, let's join the war. So Congress officially declared war on Japan after Roosevelt's address to Congress, where he states that December 7, 1941 is the date that will live in infamy. So Congress declares war on December 8th, and on December 11th, Germany and Italy honor their pledge to back up Japan, so they declare war on us. Now, the big three have already met by this time. They agree, concentrate on Hitler and Mussolini in Europe, and then go towards the Japanese with all of their might. So that's where we leave off with from last time, but let's go ahead and continue the discussion. So here we go.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii by air, President Roosevelt has just announced. The attack also was made on all naval and military activities on the principal island of Oahu.
Yes, this is what we see here. This is, I believe, the Battleship Arizona, and you could see, I mean, just kind of there's a lot of smoke. It looks tore up because a bomb hit their magazine room, which is where they have like all their weapons and stuff. So Battleship Arizona, gosh, there's like over 1,000 lives lost just on that. And then when the Battleship Oklahoma capsizes, which means it turns over in the water to where the bottom is actually now on top of the water, a lot more people died with that tragedy as well, because they were basically trapped in there and yeah, they drowned. So, pretty much, I mean, we're going to mobilize like crazy. And so, this is what we see. I mean, we see the United States mobilizing like never before. I mean, World War I, we mobilized like crazy, but this time around, I mean, wow, we got our stuff together. Defense spending has already been increasing, but now that the bombing of Pearl Harbor happened, look at how much our defense spending has changed from 1940, prior to entering the war, until 1945, which is the last year of the war. So our government is really spending on the war effort. And I mean, you know, people are doing their part. They're having rummage sales, they're donating typewriters and other items to the war effort, and we're still selling war bonds. So everybody contributed to this war effort. And just like in World War I, we're going to see the return of the War Productions Board, which is going to manage all the war industries. We're going to see the Office of War Mobilization, which pretty much prioritizes and controls the raw materials consumed in this country. We also have the Office of Price Administration, which is going to do some price freezes. They're going to freeze like wages and rent as well as institute more rationing like we saw during World War One. So rationing of meat, sugar, gas, tires, anything needed for the war effort, because again, we are supplying the Allies and we're supplying ourselves as well. So wartime production is going to increase like crazy. Instead of producing consumer goods, we go on to produce wartime goods. So instead of producing cars, Ford's going to make like airplanes and tanks. Instead of producing, like, there was this weird example where it was like a pencil company like made bombs. yeah. I mean, that was one of the World War I examples, but again, the same thing is happening here. So, this is where Congress pretty much took control of industry again and shifted its focus back to like wartime production. So the Office of Research and Development is kind of cool though. This is more of a World War II thing. But you got scientists and major universities pretty much combining their efforts and developing cool stuff like radar, sonar, penicillin. Dude, we got antibiotics now. Yeah, if there's a time in history to travel back in time to where your death may be kind of minimal due to disease, this time we finally got antibiotics. Jet engines as well are developed at this time, though we don't use jets per se during World War II. The tail end, they're still like testing them out and stuff. Rockets and the Manhattan Project, which is the atomic bomb. So we got a hell of a lot of propaganda this war. I mean, look at this. Dude, we've upped our game on propaganda posters now. Because, I mean, after all, when you ride alone, you ride with Hitler. So, you best be carpooling. But anyways, I love that Victory Garden poster right there. I mean, grow your own, be sure. That's awesome. That looks cool. And then some other posters we weren't quite politically correct with. Yeah, we're not woke yet in the 40s, guys. Not quite. But getting better. Civil rights is coming, guys. It's coming. So, anyways, you see the rationing coupon book down there. Of course, you'd have to give up your little stamp in order to purchase that item. A lot of neighbors would like barter and like, let's say that you don't have kids, but your neighbors do. So you'll give them like all the kid ones, like for, whatever things kids need. And you would, barter for whatever they don't need as much of. So it's kind of like that. And you have major celebrities like get involved in the world war effort as well. In this small picture down here on the right-hand side, you see a very famous actress. This is Rita Hayworth. She's like basically one of the most considered most beautiful actresses at that time. So she's kind of like A-list style, like Angelina Jolie, kind of like A-list style. So yeah, this is a big deal. She just donated her bumpers off her car to the war effort, so bruh. Lots of celebrities get involved in this war. A ton of celebrities get involved in this war. So anyways, kids are even learning how to ration at school. I mean, that's a given. We don't know how long we're going to be in this war, so yeah, everybody do their part. Propaganda, dude. Propaganda is crazy at this time. Look at that poster right there. That poster says a whole freaking lot. Look at it. Dear God, keep them safe. I mean, whoa. And they're going to school with gas masks on. Like, dude. That's hardcore. That's hardcore. But it sends the message across. And propaganda produced by the Office of War Information is going to be so instrumental in getting people to do their part for the war, whether it be buying war bonds or rationing or, whatever. It's going to get people involved. But the Office of War Information is going to control the news about the troop movement and the battles, because at this time, like, people were already going to movie theaters, and instead of previews, you would see the news. or cartoons or whatever before the movie. So that's how a lot of people got their information. And so movies, radio, popular music is going to reflect these patriotic tones and, you know, contribute to the war effort. So, propaganda helps to keep up that morale, encourages people to conserve resources, increases wartime production, all of the above. Just like in World War I, but times 10. Because, I mean, God, look at this stuff, man. I love the one on the top. Yeah, me being the history nerd, Americans will always fight for liberty. Hell yes. That's amazing. God, the artwork with these propaganda posters is unreal, man. You know, down at the bottom left, check that out to get the Mexican-American population on board. Americanos todos luchamos por la victoria. So, dude, Americans all, let's fight for victory. Yes, we got the sombrero and we've got Uncle Sam's top hat. That's amazing. I want that poster. Along with the one on top of it. I want both. Dude, I just want all of these. And you guys thought this was a meme? Keep calm and carry on? Hell no, that's a World War II British propaganda poster. Here we go. Propaganda posters making the rounds. Again, with their popularity. And I mean, check out the one on the bottom right with the shadow of the swastika. Don't let that shadow touch them. Buy war bonds. These do a hell of a job hammering home that message. So, with workers and unions, labor unions and large corporations are going to agree once again that there's going to be no strikes because, I mean, that'd be detrimental to the war effort. But workers do become angry because their wages are frozen and manufacturers still make large profits. But things are still going to be running okay. We're not going to have strikes. And over Roosevelt's veto, the Smith-Connally Anti-Strike Act passes through Congress. It gives the government the power to take over war-related businesses whose operations were threatened by a strike. Remember, Roosevelt is very pro-labor union, so I mean, something like this is kind of anti-labor union, so it makes sense that he would veto it. But I mean, check out, like, I love that propaganda poster in the middle. Attack on all fronts. You've got the woman with her gardening hoe, you know, for her victory garden. You've got that guy in the middle with something is, you know, for like the factories and all that. And then you got the soldier. So that is cool. Minorities get involved in the war as well. Mexican Americans are going to come back to the farms and work in other wartime industries, as well as, you know, fight in the war as well. So we're going to see a variety of different races and ethnicities get involved in this war effort. And though with Mexican Americans, okay, all right, so we remember from the Great Depression, we deported a whole bunch because we're freaking racist and it was the Great Depression. All right, so now during World War II, we're like, hey, come on back in. We need you for the farms again. Yeah, but people come back in. It's the bracero program that's established to get Mexican farm workers to come in without the formal immigration procedures, so needed for the war effort, so come on back in. The hypocrisy. Anyways, so the Sun Belt is going to explode at this time because this is where a lot of the wartime industries are located, the factories and whatnot. So a lot of people are going to move to the Sun Belt. We're talking Texas, we're talking Florida, California. That's pretty much the Sun Belt. So, though more minorities and ethnic populations are traveling around the country for wartime jobs, they're going to be met with hostility and prejudice because, dude, racism exists in this country. Let's just face it. I mean, It exists. So where we see part of this blow up is with the zoot suit riots. You could see Mexican immigrants, and they got beat up by sailors in Los Angeles because of their zoot suits. You see the picture up there, that's a zoot suit. People thought, well, the sailors thought that was very unpatriotic because it was a waste of fabric, according to them. Because you could see how, like, it's baggy, like, pants and, like, elongated coats and whatnot. So that's a zoot suit. But anyways, the sailors attack the zoot suiters. The zoot suiters get thrown in jail. The sailors, none happens to them. So this is in 1943, and it shows the prejudices existing towards the Mexican populations in the United States. But women in the war effort. Okay, shifting gears now. So we got a lot to cover. So women with the war effort, though. I mean, this is kind of cool. Women are going to step up to the plate once again and deliver. They take over the factory jobs that men left behind, as well as African Americans. I mean, it's history repeating itself. World War I kind of, like, the war effort for World War I repeats itself. But, like we said, times 10, because we're, like, involved, like, longer. So women are going to enter the Army, the Navy, the Marines in non-combat positions like being nurses, clerical workers, you know, cartographers, whatnot. So women are going to not only take over those factory jobs and become like the badass Rosie the Riveter right there saying, we can do it. We are, you know, taking over, man, and stepping up. So, women's contribution to the war effort is duly noted in these propaganda posters. I like the one on the bottom right. It's like, quit your whining and just get a war job. Bro, sometimes some people have to hear that. But, wow. Longing won't bring him back sooner. Get a war job. That one just like cracks me up all the time. But I love the one in the middle as well. It's tradition with us, mister. Hell yes. You got the woman loading up the musket rifle, and then you've got her putting on the rivets like on an airplane or something. That is freaking cool. And then on top, a woman's placed in the war, making some sort of, I can't tell if that's a model or not. That might be a model for, like, you know how, like, sometimes you plan out, like, troop movements and stuff, like, on giant maps and whatnot? But, yeah, I think she's making models for that. But, and then do the job he left behind? Hell yes. This is so cool, man. The propaganda posters are going to address all areas of society and all groups in society. So with African Americans, we see this poster right here of Private Joe Louis, who was the heavyweight boxing champion of the world at that time, guys. He left boxing to join the war. So we're going to do our part, and we'll win because we're on God's side. We got a lot of sports personalities joining the war, a lot of A-list Hollywood actors joining the war. I mean, dude, we have freaking Clark Gable, who was like, God, he's probably like the equivalent of, I'd say like George Clooney or something like that. Join in the war, like leaving movies and be like, yeah, I'm gonna join the war. You got Jimmy Stewart. I mean, Jimmy Stewart's probably like the level of like, I don't know, like someone like Leo DiCaprio joining the freaking war and like leaving Hollywood. We got people like this doing that. We got future Hall of Famers with baseball and various other sports leaving their respective sports to join the war. So this is just on another level, man. I mean, come on. When multi-million-dollar contracted athletes and singers and actors and stuff leave their jobs to join a war right now, probably not. But during World War II, they did. Much respect to the greatest generation, man. So with African Americans, though, African Americans are going to once again leave the South for the factory jobs in the North and the West. Kind of like the Great Migration with World War I. They're going to do this once more. So 1 million, though, are going to join the armed forces, but we still got segregated troops, guys. We still got racism in the army. So, of course, they're put in just menial, like, jobs and stuff, as cooks, as, like, a lot of, like, combat positions that weren't exactly ideal. Still racism and segregation. But after this war, that's going to change with Truman. So, race riots do occur in New York and Detroit because, once again, African Americans had moved for those factory jobs. So, racial tensions are still erupting. This is in 1943. Membership in the NAACP is going to increase during the war because, yeah, people facing prejudice. So, NAACP is gaining membership and power at this time as well. So, which is kind of crucial because, I mean, they're going to be at the forefront of the civil rights movement coming up in a couple of years. And CORE, Congress of Racial Equality, is formed at this time as well in 1942. That's going to be another big group that we're going to see coming up during the civil rights movement in the 50s. A. Philip Randolph, he was around during World War I, and he got arrested for, the whole Espionage and Sedition Act kind of thing because he was encouraging African Americans to strike during the war unless they get equality. He's going to threaten the same thing. A march on Washington, unless the government steps up and says, hey, let's give some more equality to African Americans in government factory jobs. So FDR listens to this, though, and he's going to issue Executive Order 8802, which is going to prohibit discrimination in government and in businesses that receive federal contracts. So, hey, guys, baby steps in the right direction. For real. The racial issues are getting slightly better. We're not perfect, guys. Come on now. Come on. But getting better. So, there's still going to be a lot of discrimination, though. African Americans are going to suffer discrimination in housing and other areas. And then, yeah, the riots that happened in Detroit. It's still going to be harsh. But, dude, in the war, man, we got some badasses joining the war, like the Tuskegee Airmen. I love this propaganda poster for them. To keep us flying, buy war bonds. Of course, targeting the African American community with that poster. But these guys were awesome. The Tuskegee Airmen was the first all-black combat fighter unit. And they got a distinguished reputation for never losing a bomber to an enemy fighter plane. Bruh. These guys are legit pilots. There's very few of them left alive right now because, Grace Generation's already in their late 90s, guys. So, if you know one, talk to them. Any World War II veteran, because, we're not going to have them for very much longer, and these guys are awesome. Another freaking awesome group is going to be the Navajo Code Talkers. Dude, we would not have won this war in the Pacific against the Japanese if it wasn't for these guys. So, these are Native Americans that contribute to the war effort. In total, Native Americans, there's about 2,500 that serve the military and thousands work in defense industries. But the Navajo Code Talkers in particular are going to be crucial to the war effort because these guys there's a code developed around their language, around the Navajo language. The Japanese kept breaking every single one of our codes, and war against the Japanese was going really terrible until the Navajo Code Talkers came into play. And their code was never broken. It remained classified for a very long time, and people didn't even know about them until the 90s, because that's how long it was classified. So, in 2002, we've got George W. Bush giving the Medal of Honor to one of the Code Talkers that's still alive. Unfortunately, I think all of the Code Talkers are dead already. But you could see interviews from them and other outlets. YouTube probably has some videos that have interviews from these guys, but much respect, man. Navajo Code Talkers are awesome and very much needed for the war. So, Japanese Americans, gosh, their experience during the war was harsh because they're going to face like such prejudice and pretty much they're going to suffer because of the prejudice that they received due to, well, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, since we know it was the Japanese that did that. Japanese Americans are, of course, going to be discriminated against. And more than any other ethnic group, they're going to suffer because of our wartime enemy. Guilt by association, right? So 20,000 native-born Japanese Americans are going to serve in the military loyally. I mean, look at the 442nd Infantry. This is made up of Japanese Americans. They fight against Hitler in Europe, and they are very distinguished. They're the most highly decorated military unit. So many medals of honor won by these guys. But yet, their relatives here at home are treated terribly because of fear. Fear of espionage. So, Japanese Americans are suspected of being potential spies and saboteurs, and we're fearing another possible attack on the West Coast. So a lot of people are going to be paranoid. And this is what prompts FDR to do probably his most despicable act, which is Executive Order 9066, where 100,000 Japanese Americans living on the West Coast are forced to leave their homes and reside in internment camps. So, there's going to be a court case challenge to this executive order with Korematsu versus the United States. And in this court case, the Supreme Court is going to uphold the government's internment policy as justified during wartime. So pretty much this is kind of like Schenck versus the United States. Basically saying that internment camps were okay because there was a threat to our war effort. So this is a dark stain in our history, for sure. And, I mean, we're going to see posters like this plastered around various parts of California. We're going to see kids and their families living in these internment camps. Look at that picture on the bottom. We see a soldier visiting his girlfriend and their family in an internment camp while he's bravely fighting for this country. So here's the location of a lot of internment camps. You see they're dotted along the southwest. There are going to be a couple here in Texas. And in Texas, what we have is Crystal Creek. This is where we have Japanese Americans there. There are also going to be German Americans, though not as widespread as the Japanese Americans, and some Italian Americans as well. The most notorious of these camps will be in Manzanar. So, yeah, like I said, guys, today was going to be a mix of great freaking things that we've done as a country, but then also terrible freaking things that we've done as a country. So, America changes after World War II. I mean, we abandoned our isolationism. Barriers to Black participation in the economy and the military during the war is going to lead to the civil rights movement. So some of the stuff that we did talk about already is going to change. But again, we kind of backslide a little bit with like Japanese internment. Though the Great Depression did end and women and minorities find new employment opportunities, we still got racial riots, we still got internment, we still got like all kinds of like negativity. So like I said, guys, this is baby steps in the right direction, but some stuff is really terrible. Just saying, we're a flawed country. But then again, I mean, a lot of countries are flawed. Okay, shifting gears. Election 1944, because remember, we got an election every 4 years, and the war has not even come to a conclusion yet. We go with Roosevelt again because people are figuring it's kind of dumb to switch leaders during the middle of a crucial war that we have no idea who's going to win yet. I mean, at this time in 1944, when the campaigns are going on, we haven't had D-Day yet. We haven't had anything truly defining yet to really have us actually show who's gonna win yet. I mean, it's still kind of up in the air. But people are like, whoa, Roosevelt running for a fourth time? So we're still struggling with that, just like we were last time with his third term. And Roosevelt, truth be told, is not looking as healthy this time around. Because, I mean, come on. Dude, 4 terms? That's a hell of a lot. But he does still win 53% of the popular vote. And he's elected for a 4th term. But he's going to die in office. And Truman, his vice president, is going to take over after 3 months. So, bro, I mean, he is really well, he went through the Great Depression and a very stressful war like World War II. So, yeah, his health kind of caught up to him. Okay, let's go ahead and switch gears and actually talk about some of the war. So let's go ahead and talk about North Africa. So this is one of the first places we actually enter into. There's 2 fronts with the European theater. One is going to be in Africa, the other one, well, Europe. Okay, so that's where the Nazis and the Italians are at. Now, fighting in the first year of the war was between the Germans and the Soviets. The Germans' advance ended in 1942 because of the U.S. entry into the war. Because remember, December 7th, 1941, officially declare, Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Following day, declare war on Japan. A couple days later, Germany and Italy. So by the time we mobilize and everything, it's going to be 1942. So, the Soviets win at Stalingrad. We enter the war and start cleaning house, man. Now, the military strategy is that British and American forces are going to concentrate on 2 objectives: overcoming the German subs in the Atlantic because they were treacherous. Absolutely terrible conditions in the Atlantic. We need to get rid of those subs, get rid of those U-boats. And we're just going to start bombing raids on German cities. So, the Battle of the Atlantic, German subs are going to sink over 500 Allied ships in 1942. So, yeah, we got to take care of business. But now that we have been developing radar and sonar, things are going to start changing for us. We're going to start bombing German naval bases and, yeah, you can actually start turning things around. So, Germans have Rommel in charge in North Africa. He's known as the Desert Fox. He's not to be trifled with. But the British have General Montgomery, and he's going to be victorious in North Africa. So, Operation Torch, led by Eisenhower and Montgomery, basically the Allied forces are going to take over North Africa from the Germans by May of 1943. And so in the summer of 1943, the Allies are going to prepare to invade Sicily with General Patton. Mussolini is going to fall from power because once we go from Sicily, we go to Italy. And, yeah, his own people hang him. Hitler, though, is a different story. We got to push through France, and the Soviets have to push from their end towards Germany in the east, and then the Allied forces have to push through France towards Germany in the west, and then up through Italy. So it's like a 3-prong attack on the Germans by the time they finally surrender. So, yeah, there's the invasion of Italy in 1943, which was still in progress when the Germans surrendered in 1945. But truly, though, I mean, the German surrender was what was up. Like, we needed to do that. So let's go ahead and talk about some more important battles like D-Day. So with D-Day, it's basically just D-Day. There's no like real significance to its name, but this is the day of the largest invasion that we have tried to accomplish in Europe during the war. So it's a joint effort between British Canadians and U.S. forces led by General Eisenhower. And where they're going to land is the Normandy coast in France. And from there, we're going to push through the French countryside, liberating it so we could get back our ally, the French, so we could push towards Germany. So by the end of August, Paris is going to be liberated. And by September, the Allied troops are going to cross into the German border. By December of 1944, the last major offensive by the Germans, the Battle of the Bulge, takes place. So our big generals that we're talking about here is going to be General Eisenhower and General Omar Bradley. Those are our two main guys, besides General Patton, that are going to be involved in the war in Europe. So, you're into military maps. There's your D-Day invasion map right there. Or rather, the plans for invasion of occupied France. Yep, that's the D-Day map. I see it because we see Juno, Gold Sword, and Omaha Beach. So, here's what we're talking about as far as like actual equipment and troops and all that. 3 million men! Holy crap! I'm telling you guys, this is a large-scale invasion. 52 divisions, 80,000 trucks, 10,000 tanks. I mean, this is crazy. And yeah, we need this to work. We do. So you see Bradley right there. He's taking his troops and landing at Utah and Omaha beaches, which are controlled by the United States isn't going to march through there. And unfortunately for us, those are the most heavily fortified beaches. Gold is going to be handled by the British. Juno and Sword by the British and the Canadians. Those are not as heavily fortified as Utah and Omaha. So here's Eisenhower in a very famous image talking to the paratroopers right before the D-Day invasion. Because yeah, we even got paratroopers like dropping into the French countryside at the same freaking time this is happening. Look at all of those parachutes. Like, whoa! These guys are hardcore because they're getting shot at the same time. Whew. This is a very impressive show of force that the Allies do against the Nazis during the D-Day invasion. So, it works though, but we're going to have a lot of loss during this as well. I mean, we do have a lot of planes crashing with paratroopers on board. The soldiers that landed on Omaha and Utah beaches sustained heavy gunfire. And if you guys have seen Saving Private Ryan, this is pretty much what we're talking about. Like, insane bloodshed. But all of this is made possible because the Allies have captured the German coding machine Ultra, and they have cracked the code. British intelligence has cracked the code with their machine, which is that big thing on the left-hand side, Enigma. So now that we have possession of the German code, it made the D-Day invasion possible. And again, Allied troops are marching through Paris in late August, liberating it from German control. But the Germans put up a fight with the Battle of the Bulge, their last major offensive. And really, the war is coming to an end for the Germans. So here's our captured, wounded, and missing at the Battle of the Bulge. So you can see both sides lose a massive amount of men and equipment. but the Americans are really, really holding their own, as well as the rest of the Allied troops. So, the Germans are going to surrender, and while we're marching towards Germany, this is where we discover concentration camps. General Patton and his Third Army are going to liberate two particular concentration camps, Buchenwald and Dachau, in 1945. And Americans are going to find out all about the Holocaust through this, because the Army is photographing all of this. They're taking newsreel film off of all of this. So we're seeing this happen, and we can't believe our eyes at like the horrible atrocities that have occurred during this war. We just can't fathom it. We are really, really taken back by the sheer terrible things that we've seen. And what happens is we just can't fathom all of this, because I mean, it's a hard pill to swallow for us to believe that people are capable of such terrible things in this world. But now that we've seen the evidence from the Army, all of these horrible things that we heard about are true. Even a hardcore soldier like General Patton is going to be like, he can't deal, he can't handle all of this. So what we see is troops coming in to liberate these concentration camps and really being horrified by the conditions that they saw. They can't believe their eyes at how terrible all of this truly is. So, by the time we march into Germany, Hitler has already declared suicide, and he is going to, this is going to bring about the end of the war. So, this happens by April 30th. The Russian army closes in on Berlin. By May 7th, we have the unconditional surrender of the Nazis. And so now we have Victory in Europe Day. But I mean, how'd we see all the terrible destruction? We will talk more about the Holocaust next time, guys. But let's go ahead and show some pictures of the end of the war. So you could see how we're approaching from 3 different fronts here, through Italy, through the French countryside, and then Stalin and his troops are coming in through the Russian areas. The strategic bombings worked on Germany, though the German countryside and cities like Dresden are going to be tore up by this. So now that the Russian army has been surrounding Berlin, it's only a matter of time for the Germans to fall. So this is one of the most very famous pictures of the capture of Berlin. This is the Reichstag, and we could see that the Russians are putting up their flag on the Reichstag, which is, this is one of the most famous buildings in Berlin, to tell you guys the truth. You got a picture of Hitler. They're trying to compare it and see if this is really Hitler when they approach his bunker, and the Allies figure it really is him. So, Germans are going to officially surrender, and the war in Europe is officially over. So, next time, guys, we are going to start off with a very, very important topic, which is the Holocaust. So, I will talk to you guys later. Bye, guys.